Championship, 1-0, undefeated season rolls on.
82-0. It's
Here
funny that the
we
name of our
go.
text thread, Jimmy, is still C's 72-0 with that post-COVID shortened season, and we haven't
Yeah.
changed it yet.
I know. Think about
but,
that sometimes.
Okay, I'm gonna let the mood of the room decide.
Let's check the comments here.
What direction we're going tonight? Because
what do you mean? What direction? We have to go in one direction tonight. We'll touch upon everything, but we have to go.
KP.
All I'm saying is
forward direction. John.
I just turned on the chat.
Forward.
Everyone's gonna drive. Everyone's gonna think it's me. I turn
because
on
you
the
hate
chat.
him, John. You hate him.
I turn on the chat. No. I turn on the chat. First 4 comments are JB. Then it's I'm going to show you.
Jalen Brunson either.
Just in a row. First comment I read. Oh, spooky. Ahmed, these are too spooky.
Ahmed went nuts.
These are too spooky.
It's spooky season.
Then it's Cornet sucks. I'm sorry, guys. Then the third one I see is this. Mazzulla fighting for his job.
These are our listeners. These are our viewers, John. These are the ones.
And they won.
These are our children.
They won this game.
And they won. Listen, I'm leading with Kristaps Porzingis because, as everyone should know by now, I am
terrible. Kata
madly in love.
Him. Is this where we are, guys?
We're not. I'm not even looking at those comments right now. I'm starting with the new hire, Kristaps Porzingis. Hired talent there, and this guy, he's Larry Bird meets Kevin Garnett. I've said it before, I'll say it again. He does it all, Sherrod. He does it all. He even flops out there, which we'll let that one slide tonight for the. I love that new call though. I love the flopping call. Even if it's against Celtics guys, just get that out of the game. But Porzingis, offense, defense, outside, inside, getting back. I mean, this guy was everywhere. He was fired up. Him and Tatum, kind of led the way tonight. But if you were, if you had any hesitation about the Porzingis fit, and John, you mentioned it before he went on. They didn't even look for him in all the right places yet, and he was still having such a big effect.
No, they could have hit him 100 times. Like I think they got to figure out, like, oh my goodness, they should be running him in screen action all game long.
They will.
Yeah.
Well,
this is game one.
They were doing that in the first quarter, and what did he do? He got you 15 points, and then they kind of went away from it after that. There was a possession in the second quarter that, if you're scouting the Celtics, that one possession is going to scare the crap out of you. Is Porzingis and Tatum high pick and roll at the top of key? Porzingis rolls to the basket. Both defenders gravitate to him. Tatum, I think he missed a shot because he was like, "Shit, I'm wide open."
Right.
That never happens when we run pick and roll with Rob. Never.
I love
7'3" guy wide open. He's never gonna get a shot blocked once this year. Another bold prediction. He will never have a shot blocked this year.
I love my analogies. And 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the first show of the year, I'm going to give my first one because I'm not going to overreact to like anything in night one. It's a brand new team, a brand new band. They're playing together for the first time. But what I will say is where you have some things like what you saw tonight, Porzingis go crazy in one quarter, then Tatum saved their asses in a really sloppy second quarter by doing what you want to see him do. Aggressive, downhill, quick moves, not rocking the baby, going. And then you kind of forget about, what you're doing. And then it's, who knows what. And then it comes back to, Tatum was good in the third. Then they come back to KP in the fourth. I view this team, this is my first analogy, like a buffet. Like there's a lot of good options, right? Like, and sometimes you come up to the line and you don't know which one you want to put on your plate. You want to put all of them on there and you'll just forget stuff. You'll walk back to the table and be like, oh man, like I might've loaded up a little bit too much on pasta and I left the prime rib there. Like they're going to do that.
That's a rookie mistake.
That's a rookie mistake. Don't waste your time on bread and pasta.
Don't go to pasta.
That's what they want you to do. Okay.
Exactly. All you can eat pasta. You go up there with one bowl.
That's what the buffet lobby is hoping that you do. But that's going to happen here is they're going to get overloaded. They're going to forget some stuff and guys are going to get left out.
What's Cornet at the buffet? What would you say? Is he like green beans?
Garnett.
Jello salad.
No, he's the kale garnish. He's not even a kale salad. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to eat that. That's garnish. Don't put it out there. You shouldn't put cornet on your plate. Okay?
Big Kale wants you to eat it. Man.
No,
Damn.
you don't do that. He's a garnish. You don't.
John,
you don't
I'm just
eat
noticing. You bullied Ahmed out of getting rid of the spooky comments.
No, I got rid of him.
Oh, well, you're
executive
a bully.
decision. It was. You know what? It wasn't the spookiness. It was just the.
It was disjointed.
You can't read crooked. You can't read crooked. I've noticed that you're not doing well reading anymore. You need glasses.
I have glasses.
I don't think it's the font. I think it's the font size.
No, the crooked bothered me. I was trying to figure it out. So yes.
Anyways,
that's what we have there. It's a little bit.
So,
there's a little bit of last year, kind of like.
Yeah.
Your ball, my ball. But now there's 5 guys to share the ball with. You're going to see nights, I guarantee, where Holiday has 5 shots, White has 3. There's going to be nights like that too. So they got to figure out what they're doing there. They definitely didn't have it figured out tonight. What I will say is we did not have ball dominant point guard Jrue Holiday here. We had kind of the same stuff. Run that high screen, give the ball to Tatum or Brown, top of the key, let them kind of cook, figure stuff out. I thought we'd have a different kind of look in how the offense was going to go, and I don't think we really did on night one.
I'm hoping it's going to get a little bit better as we go along because, if you didn't know any better, you'd have thought that was Marcus Smart out there and not Jrue Holiday because the role that they played in the offense was pretty much the same. He took a couple of bad shots. Marcus Smart will always take a couple of bad shots. He did some good things defensively. Marcus does good things defensively. It's going to take them a
couple
minute
turnovers.
To out. Right. But the thing that impressed me was that they recognized certain matchups and they absolutely went at them. And I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but it felt like Tatum spent way more time trying to get in the paint, back his man down than he normally does. It seemed like he didn't settle for the 5, 6, 7 long shots under pressure or early in the shot clock that he normally takes. Instead, when he saw that he had a smaller guy on him, he took his ass on the block and tried to post him up.
He drifted in and out in that, I thought, a little bit. He had a period of time where he was just perfect, his offensive approach, but then just unnecessarily, needlessly breaking down a guy and going ISO with a tough, challenged shot when it wasn't.
It almost
necessary.
Seemed like he felt bored at that point.
Yes, and
he needed to challenge himself.
I don't love that, but that's
either.
Fine. It's just you don't need it on this team. You
don't need it, John. But at the same time, you still want your possible MVP to go into some sort of takeover mode at times. You still have to take the shot, take the heat check, try to do it all once in a while. Not to the point where it's a detriment to the team, but I'm not that upset if he has a look and he goes for it instead of moving the ball around, because at the end of the day, someone's going to end up taking that shot. And if it's not a horrible shot, you still like your chances with him with the ball in his hand. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he should have 10 assists a night instead of 30 points a night. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but he still needs to be the guy. He still needs to be aggressive. He can't get super, super passive. And I think Jaylen Brown's going to find himself in that position more than Jayson Tatum will. And you're muted, I think. Can't hear you, John.
Yeah.
Sorry, we talked about this a bit. I really think Jaylen is the key because I think he's the one who's going to have the hardest time. Because Porzingis, by the benefit of being 7'9", is going to. Thanks, Jimmy J. And yes, we're going to get into Mazzulla and his rotations. And again, I'm going to give Joe a pass because I think he's going to have to figure out who's playing. But I don't think he has any clue what he's doing right now. I think it's going to be a lot of, not in a bad way. I think it's going to be a ton of in season.
That's what we got all these assistants for, though.
In season
experimentation. The hell are they all doing?
But Jaylen's going to be the one who struggles the most here. Porzingis is going to get his looks because he's Porzingis and he's big and he can roll, he can play in the post. You can find him on lobs, which they did a couple of times, and obviously he can step out on that screen and roll friggin' 10 feet past the 3-point line and still get clean looks up there. I mean, if that stuff is indefensible, and Brown's going to get Brown's going to get frozen out a little bit. How does he deal with that? There was a period in that third quarter, and I tweeted it. Brown made a couple of nice passes, hit Horford for a 3, and then had another one down low. And then, we'll get into what happened in the fourth quarter a little bit later, because that's what has everybody kind of scratching their heads here. But I think Brown's the one who's going to have the toughest time adjusting to this new world order.
Yeah, and I think he will. I mean, he's shown the ability to adapt and acclimate himself to what they've needed him to do. But this is completely different from the standpoint of, it's one thing to figure out how to fit in with the team. It's another thing to do it and win a championship, because that's what this is. Everything that we're talking about, everything that they do is all building towards winning a championship. And Jaylen, I think you're right. I think he's the one guy that's going to have to figure out, how does he fit into that puzzle? Well, that's part of it, Jimmy. I mean, it's one thing to say, you got to sacrifice, but what does that mean? I mean, does that mean shots?
Yeah, sacrifice might be the wrong word.
It means something different for every player. Like
maybe
Tatum.
Adjust.
What's that?
Maybe adjust.
Yeah. He definitely has to adjust. I think for him, when you look at the way this team plays, the big adjustment that I think Jaylen needs to make, and I thought today we saw signs of that, was he needs to really buy into the fact that he can be and should be an elite defender. He needs to absolutely go chips all in on that, because he's the one. If that's the one thing right now they could use from him that would set him in some respects apart from some of the other guys. Because Jrue Holiday is a great two-way player, but Jaylen Brown is a better offensive player than Jrue Holiday. So if he can step his game up, being Jaylen, defensively, and still give you some semblance of what he can do offensively, that gives even more value to what he brings to this team. And he's got to figure that out. But, this was for your first game with a relatively new team, lots of different pieces, moving pieces coming together. You did what you needed to do. You got the win.
How much of that, Sherrod, how much of figuring out is desire to play hard, or is it basketball IQ?
I think it's
for him.
Probably a little bit of both, but I would, if I had to lean one way or the other, I would just say that it's probably more desired. Because for guys in this league who show the ability to score at a high clip, it's kind of like you get that taste and you don't want to lose that taste. You like the fact that you can go out there and get you 20 points a night. Defending at a high level is hard, particularly when you know that you can bring it at the other end the way he can. So I think for him, it's just a matter of just locking in and just getting it done. Because we've seen him, he's able to do it. It's not a question of can you do it? Can you do it consistently? That's what he needs to do.
Yeah. So we'll hit on Jaylen a little later, because so much of, I think, of what we're going to be watching for while they work out their kinks and get to know one another is what's different. Mazzulla's approach, the team approach, talking about a team that he wanted to learn to live without knocking down threes. It happened tonight. They did win without knocking down the threes. I don't know how much of that was based off of what they did. I don't know how much of that was the Knicks missing a crap ton of bunnies and free throws throughout the course of the night. This game could have gone in a lot of different directions. So again, I'm not going to dig too deep into the results in either direction here, but it could have gone south. And this could have been a game where we're sitting here talking about Jaylen Brown's turnovers, a crap 3-point shooting team, and a team that doesn't know how to win without threes. Thankfully not. So you're going to give them credit for digging out a win there when, they didn't really play a clean game. But then again, of course, neither did New York. It's early in the season, so not much of this is going to necessarily matter. But what Jimmy was saying, and Jimmy's all in on it, and I think we have to go back and talk about him a little bit more, is like Kristaps Porzingis is like, for anybody who had any reservations at all about bringing him in and this and that. I understand injuries. I understand the different things that, you might be worried about, but oh my goodness, like this is a different thing that they have here than anything that they've had before. And like he just came out and announced his presence with authority.
And the thing that is kind of amplifies that is the fact that if you go back and you look at those first 3, 4, 5 possessions and the ridiculous spacing that they had, it's like you can't double anyone. You can't help on anyone because there's literally 3 other guys that can knock down wide open shots. And Porzingis is a big part of that effect. He can get buckets in the paint. He can get buckets to mid range. He can shoot the 3. And he's shown to be a better defender than I thought. That was the thing that I was most concerned about him. Could he be a liability at the defensive end of the floor. And at least against New York, he wasn't. It'll be interesting to see when they play teams that play a little bit smaller, how he handles dealing with a smaller, more perimeter-oriented big. But again, he seems to be the ideal fit for what they need to upgrade from where they were a year ago.
He was a beast defensively. I just saw a stat on ESPN put some stats
I thought
out.
he had 5 blocks. 4?
He had 4.
Yeah, 4. Okay.
He had 4 blocks. First player in NBA history with 5 threes and 4 blocks in a team debut. Kristaps Porzingis, everybody.
I find those stats so freaking fun.
Well, it just goes to show you that he does it on both ends.
Yeah,
It is, but it isn't, because it's 3-point shooter and somebody with a presence, down low theoretically. So 30 points, most points in a Celtics debut. I don't know if you've heard, Celtics are a pretty storied franchise. And Sherrod, your defensive stat held the Knicks to 20% shooting, 3 of 15 when he was contesting a shot.
And he was contesting his ass up at the start of the game. I mean, a lot of those shots that the Knicks were missing early on, he had a hand in someone's face, or he was pinning it on the glass or swatting it. This was again, what he does offensively doesn't surprise me, because he's always been a good scorer. Always. It was always the defense that was a problem. I remember, when during one of the preseason games, Brad did like an end-game interview where he was talking about, when he was coaching the team, they went at Porzingis, because that's what everyone did. You go at him and force him to play defense. You can't do that as much now.
No, and you hope that.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's up?
I just want to say what's up to Big Cass there.
Oh, what's up, Big Cass? Yeah,
normally he's in the building.
Normally comes in a little later. I just wanted to acknowledge that we see you, brother. We're good to have you. And good to have all of you guys. Obviously, like night one, a lot of people out there, and thank you guys for joining us rather than digging in right now and watching watching Grant Williams' Dallas debut.
Full disclosure, I'm multitasking.
Are you? Should I pull it up here?
Yeah.
All I'm seeing is Luka's score.
Yeah.
San Antonio scores.
How'd Marcus do tonight?
I don't know. You will like this, though. Celtics fans will like this. Wemby's first block, Kyrie Irving.
Oh, hell yeah. I do like that a lot, actually.
But yeah, you could be watching Grant Williams' debut. You're watching us instead, so we do appreciate it. We're going to talk about a ton more stuff, including
Marcus Smart, 15 points, 6 of 11, 1 of 2, or 2 of 6 from 3.
We're going to dig in a little bit on Jaylen, on Joe, and the bench a little bit. Not too much. We're going to talk about some things and what they might portend. And, it's not necessarily how it's going to be forever, but there's definitely some concerns that some people have regarding some things. And we saw a lot of them on night one. And I'm not going to lie. You saw a lot of them. So we'll get into that a little bit. Just a little bit. I promise we will be gentle, okay? We will be gentle.
Yeah. Just easy.
Really light stuff.
It's
really
game
light.
One.
No anger. Yeah. We're going to be all right. So, but
John with the disclaimers out the gate.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, it's going to happen. If you're going to get triggered, we already had somebody hit Jimmy
Trigger
up on
warning.
Twitter. Yeah, somebody hit Jimmy up on Twitter. I can't do it, man. Can't listen to the Jaylen stuff. Okay, that's fine. You don't have to. I get it. I'm just warning you.
They literally
you may say some things, and your delicate, virgin ears may, be. But we're not going in hard tonight. We're not. Okay.
This is Kareem. He said, that's why I stopped watching the show. I don't feel like hearing people cry every game, bringing my mood down after a win.
He said it with that indignant tone.
Yeah.
That's
and then John said, well, bye.
Bye. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Kareem, if you're watching, it's okay. You can come back. We're not going to. Yeah.
The KP stuff is interesting because, how many times were Celtics fans flexing over the 30-30 Jaylen and Tatum games? Like, you think Jaylen's sitting in the corner with a little tear right now? Like, oh, he did it with Kristaps. That's going to happen. And again, we talk about our BS predictions we made the night before. Many of them are rooted in some things that we believe. I really do believe, just based on why did we spend time, any of us who spent time thinking about the notion of splitting up the Jays? Is it because you hated one player or you thought they weren't good at basketball? No, you wanted something different, a different type of player who played a different position and could approach scoring in a different way than Tatum, who's clearly the alpha on this team. And you're kind of seeing Porzingis assert himself in that way early on. And I think it's going to happen a lot because it's another viable option that does something different than what I do. That is, if you're Tatum and you're going to have the ball in your hands and he's going to be working those screens, and they're going to start to realize that they can get it to him. I think that's going to happen a little bit. And we talked a little bit about Brown being marginalized some. That could happen, but he could also end up being more effective by what you said, Sherrod, leaning into defense, being a facilitator, almost taking that Ray Allen role, recognizing, all right, it's KG and Pierce here, and they're going to do their thing. So I'm going to have to kind of adapt a little bit, and I say this all the time. Ray Allen was not a run your ass off around screens player in his early days. He was give me the ball and get the F out of my way. I'm going to score player. That's who he was. Celtics fans think that's what he did his whole life, like some of them. That's not what he did his whole life. He wasn't an off-ball player just running around screens relentlessly. He'd run like 2 marathons a game playing for Boston. But that's what it took to make his mark, and he was friggin' phenomenal doing that. So, you might see an evolution of Brown as things kind of go on here. Oh, God. Good thing Mavs fans going in on Grant already.
Mavs fans are getting the Grant Williams introduction tonight. I just
whopping 11 minutes.
I just Twitter searched Grant Williams, and it is ugly out there for our old friend.
If your buddy who didn't want to hear the Jaylen slander, don't Google Grant Williams right now.
Yeah, just the very first one. Grant Williams is terrible. Grant Williams cannot guard Wemby. Well, probably nobody can.
Guys,
get Grant Williams off of my team.
It's the expectations of the contract that are going to hit
Grant Williams
Brown a little bit this year.
Boy.
If every bad game Brown has, it's going to be like he's the highest paid player in the NBA. Same thing. Mavs fans just gave Grant Williams money. They're the franchise did. They're expecting stuff. If he doesn't deliver, or if he just ends up being Grant, I don't know if that's going to be enough for them. But we'll get all that stuff in a little bit. We want to tell you about FanDuel. Check it out. Go to fanduel.com/Boston. NBA season is officially underway. NHL season, as you know, has been rolling. And of course, we are close to the halfway point of the NFL season. Patriots turning it around. That spread keeps creeping, Jimmy. I said it was a trap at 10-5 down to 9-5. Tyreek Hill might not play. I wonder what's going to happen here.
I saw that.
It's interesting. I think they want you. Vegas wants you to bet on the Pats. They know stuff. But anyway, FanDuel.com/Boston. Go there. 200 in bonus bets when you bet 5. That's all you have to do. Super easy to use. Interface app. Download it. Jump on there. Like I said, make sure you go to FanDuel.com/Boston. That's how they know we sent you. And take advantage of the special offer. There's a lot of other special offers that you'll get once you get there as well. But this is a great sign-up bonus if you want to check it out. So make sure you do that. And on top of that, if you want help figuring out what you're supposed to do, go to oddsr.com, oddsr.com/Celtics. Download that app. What oddsr.com is not a sports book. They just help you bet smarter. So go check it out. They use AI and machine learning to make sure that you are making smart bets all the time. 30-day free trial when you go to oddsr.com/Celtics. All you have to do is download that app. All right, guys. So we're back. We do want to tell everybody that Bobby Manning and Josue Pavon are in New York. They will be joining the show in a little bit. They are gathering their post-game reaction right now. You guys seeing anything coming out of the locker room regarding this game yet?
I see here Grant Williams is a top-tier scammer.
And there was a one line where like Grant Williams is our third best player.
Yeah, they're not happy. It's not going well for his debut is a little bit different than Porzingis'. We'll leave it at that. Apparently, yeah.
A little bit. Oh, poor Grant.
I think it's too soon for the locker room, John. Here's a comment here.
I don't think so. I think they're out there.
Oh, really? Okay. Jaylen is a $300 million sloppy fourth on this team. If this team implodes, Brad will move JB in the offseason. Ouch.
I joked with a friend of mine.
JB haters are out tonight.
I joked. Again, that's going to happen with the weight of the expectations of that contract. I joked with a friend of mine that I was leading the show, and the first question I was going to ask you guys was, where will Jaylen Brown be playing next season? I
said, I quoted a fake quote from you. I said, could they even get a first-round pick for Jaylen Brown right now? That was the Derek White narrative for a while.
What could they get for him? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
No. So waiting for some stuff out of the locker room, and we'll bounce it around. So let's go once around the world, because here are the things that are hot on people's minds. Number one, let's talk a little bit. We'll get back to Jaylen in a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what Joe was doing with the rotations there. There was a lot of double big. I thought in the first half he was doing that because White got into foul trouble. He had 3 early and he sat and he missed a bunch of time. But I don't understand. Is this going to be like you signed all these guys, right? And you have a bunch of them who can do some stuff, and you opt for Luke Kornet for some reason. When you have another big on the floor, I understand in games when bigs sit. Explain to me Luke Kornet in any capacity tonight in this game.
Other than breaking a sweat, I'm not sure what he brought to the game.
I don't know what he brought to the game, but what did you expect him to bring to the game?
Well, I expected him, if he's out there playing,
he's a warm body.
Defend a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe grab a rebound, maybe take a wide open shot, set a good screen, make a great bounce pass. Do something that when you get off the floor, I can think of one discernible skill you showed out there that warranted you being out there. And he was the only guy that they played tonight that I felt gave you nothing. Because even though Sam Hauser missed a bunch of shots, Hauser actually grabbed the rebound every now and then. Hauser actually made a play every now and then. Didn't make any shots, but that's okay. At least he did something that showed, okay, he at least is giving me something that I can remember. Luke did nothing.
No, he didn't. And you know what? Don't want to only pick on Luke. I mean, I can't say that the bench did a whole lot to really make everybody feel better about the depth situation. And you look at the Knicks, they actually have some depth on their team. I actually thought that dude Hartenstein, he pushes himself around.
He was awesome. He got his hand on so many loose balls. They were
scrappy.
Imagine if they had a guy like him coming off the bench.
Keeping balls alive. He was great.
Scrappy.
He's perfect for a bench role like that. Yeah. The Celtics don't have a big like that coming off the bench. They have Quickly, who's, if he's going to come off the bench all year, and he's going to be your 6th man of the year because he's still pretty nasty.
He was second in it last year. So
right, he had a late surge and he almost took it. And then they have Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo. They have a decent bench. Celtics don't have that bench, so they are going to need. Jaylen Brown to still score 25 points a game. Because this was a relatively low scoring game for today's NBA standards, 108 to 104.
Yeah, but Jimmy, here's the thing though. You're right. I think the Knicks probably have a little bit more depth on the bench, but there's a huge difference in that starting lineup.
Oh, I agree completely.
And that to me, that's what I think the Celtics, they need to figure out a way to close the gap a little bit in terms of that bench impact, not necessarily production, but impact. You're going to rely more on your starting lineup. Al Horford, who they obviously think of as a 6th starter, I thought he was great tonight. In the minutes that he played, he had a couple of big shots, was active on the glass, did a good job defensively, which we expect from him. But other than Al, they didn't really get – and Pritchard made obviously big free throws there down the stretch. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, they didn't really get anything from that second unit other than Al's production. And they're going to need more than that as the season progresses. They're going to need at least 1 or 2 other guys to give them something kind of juice.
At the half, they had 2 points from the bench on an Al Horford dunk in transition. And you played we were 9 deep, 9 minutes into the game, because he got, or 8 deep, 9 minutes into the game. And then Kornet shocked everybody coming out of the timeout to start the second quarter. So 9 players, by the time the second quarter kicked off. And I was like, okay, I don't mind. Joe's going to utilize the bench some. And we said he has to do that, right? You can't have your starters playing 37, 38. But it was just those guys. And again, among one of the things we talked about in our preview show, I don't think Hauser keeps his spot necessarily in the rotation. I think Pritchard will. And I don't think Kornet really is deserving of minutes, but that's who Joe's comfortable with now, because we know that Joe really, really, really has to feel comfortable with who he's putting out there. He's not really a risk taker. He's not just going to throw out any of the new guys, but they're there. Are you telling me all of those guys are there just to break glass in case of emergency? Every single one of them. I'm not saying that they're great, but again, it's what are you putting in their stead? And how long is that going to last? I do wonder. But the bigger issue isn't necessarily as much the rotation, the bench isn't going to be great, but you have 6 starters, which means 2 or 3 of them are on the court all the time. The bench, and again, people in my comments said this too. This isn't frigging 8-year-old youth basketball where it's 5 in, 5 out. The bench is going to have a Jay, one of the guards, and either Horford or Porzingis in there at all times with 2 bench players. That's your bench. You just need 2 serviceable guys. But which pieces are going to fit? Which guys are going to work together? And how's that going to go? And, Joe trying to figure it out. But I don't know. I mean, the double big thing really threw me tonight with Kornet getting some minutes in there and him that being a thing.
Yeah, I think at some point, probably before Thanksgiving or sometime around then, I think Joe's going to start looking seriously at guys like Keita and guys like Lamar Stevens and just trying to get guys who they may not be the most skilled guys, but they're energy guys. They're guys who can just kind of what Hartenstein did for the Knicks, just go out there and give you some type of juice. And no, you don't have to necessarily score a ton of points, but be active and engaged and just force the tempo, force guys to be uncomfortable with you being out there. That's when I talk about impact, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. You don't have to score 10, 12, 15 points, but you need to make an impact if you're coming off the bench. And right now, one game into it, obviously we've got a lot of season left, but other than Al Horford, didn't really feel anyone off that second unit came into the game and put their imprint on the game for the minutes they were out there.
That's a good way to put it. Now, I'm curious, Jimmy's take too, like who you'd play there, but like Hauser only makes an impact if the shots fall. I don't know what Kornet makes an impact doing. I don't. I'm sorry. It's not meant to be slander, but I don't know what he makes an impact doing. I think he's serviceable if needed, but I don't know what you're bringing him in to do. Defensive players or guys who play energy minutes, no matter what, are bringing energy. Guys who play defense, no matter what, are playing. They're actually more reliable than, well, let's see if the offense is there from this guy sort of thing. And I want them to use shooting, and I think that they should have played Hauser more, but I think you might have better options this year that might be able to give you more if the shot's not falling. I think Hauser's so dependent on those shots falling, and all he does is the second it touches his hands, he kind of lets it fly because he knows that's what he's out there to do. And tonight was one of those nights.
Yeah, that's fine. And when he's out there, fine, do that. But I think it's different. When you're when you're like a 7-footer and you're not physical and
you're not
a great shooter, you're right. It's like, what is it that you do? Find what it is that you do well and do that. And I think that's kind of where they might be at with Kornet. I'm sure Ketta's going to get a chance. I mean, obviously, he played well enough in Summer League. He made the team. He has some small level of NBA experience. So it's just a matter of time before I think he does get that opportunity. And I understand Joe going with a guy like Kornet tonight that's been on the team. And like you said, he's a little bit more comfortable with. But damn, John, I mean, you talk about the buffet. When Joe turns around and looks at his bench, that's a buffet I do not want to be walking down. You got beets, you got like arugula.
That's the potato salad that's been sitting so long that like the yellow has turned crusty yellow. Yeah,
you got to really dig underneath.
Yeah, and you got to get underneath it because it's really crusted over.
It's been sitting for a while. It's been sitting for a while.
No one's gone into that tater salad.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this team is going to lean a lot heavier on their starting lineup this year, or in their starters. So like a team like the Knicks, just to use them because they just played them tonight, they can, their starters aren't as talented as the Celtics starters, but they're going to balance that out a little bit more with their bench unit. So they're going to be competitive. They're an energetic team. They fought tonight. They fought last year. They were a tough out in the playoffs. And it seems like they still have that same identity. The Celtics, they're going to have a little bit of a new identity this year. I don't know if we know what it is yet because there's been some pretty significant changes. I still think they can be a tough team. Obviously, they're going to be more talented on paper than every team showing up, than every team they're playing. But they have to show up, though, because we saw it in stretches tonight. They go up double digits, they give it up. Then they go up again, they give it up. All of a sudden, they're down 4 after the Jaylen Brown fiasco in the 4th there. And so they can't allow that to become part of who they are, where they can't hold leads. And we've dealt with that for numerous seasons now with this team where you just never feel comfortable with any lead that they had. And I logged on to Twitter in the middle of that second half, and it was everyone saying, here they are, the 2022 Celtics are back or whatever, and luckily they closed it out tonight. I think the difference was there was some level of execution tonight, and they closed out that Knicks, that game, and they ended up pulling it off. Whereas in past seasons, maybe they don't.
I do want to point this out. We all know this stat, and we know he had the best defensive rating among individual players last year, but it's also fake news. Like, I mean, we know it, but it's like it has nothing to do with his actual defensive prowess. We understand the concept of when you target a player, sometimes you take yourself out of your game because you're just doing one thing and it's not necessarily successful. But I guarantee you, nobody on the Celtics, nor Sam Hauser himself, believes that he's a good defensive player. And he's also the victim of getting cheap, chintzy fouls called every time he tries to take somebody
underrated,
on. And
most
that happens,
underrated defensive player.
Yeah, that happens to him all the time. So it's not underrated. I understand the numbers. The numbers made an argument that he was a sound defensive player last year. He's not actually, but we gave him a lot of praise for remaining competitive last year.
Mm-hmm.
He was not a turnstile. He's just not, he's not physical. He doesn't have great lateral movement. He can't really get off the ground, but he stayed pretty competitive. He did the best that he could with what he's got, and I thought was fine last year. Certainly on that roster, worthy of getting some minutes. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a fit here. In addition to Joe's rotations, what about the offense? I will say, what was it? What did they do? I guess is the question.
They just tried to out-talent the other team, right?
And that'll work. Like, you can have games where half of your players aren't good. What?
Guys?
No.
I don't know what this means.
It's about $1.25.
Yeah.
Well, we just got 1,000.
1,000 of these.
What's an NGN?
Nigerian
currency.
Huh.
1,000. It's like it's like $1. Yeah, like John said, it's like literally $1.26 today.
That's fine. Do we have somebody watching from Nigeria? Is that how it works?
We do. I love that.
That's unbelievable.
We're global, baby.
Shout out Nigeria. I'm huge in Nigeria. I'm absolutely massive in Nigeria.
I think we were like the number 7 sports podcast in the Philippines or something.
I believe. There are a lot of Celtics fans in the Philippines, man. I don't know why, but there are. I can guess why, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
So what were we doing? What were we doing here? Is that the thing? Is just let the players kind of do their thing?
It felt like it tonight, didn't it? It felt like a kind of glorified pickup game where you call your own fouls, you make, and just let them play. I'm hoping it's not going to be like this all season because that's kind of defeats the purpose of you being the head coach. What I'm looking for going forward, though, is to see what kind of imprint does Charles Lee and Sam Cassell and those guys have on what we're seeing out there. Because tonight I didn't feel that at all. I think that they were very consistent with most assistant coaches, just kind of watching the game to kind of like we were. But I want to see some signs of their imprint on this. And typically what happens with that is when players talk about that in their, post-game comments about, coach worked on me with this XYZ 1, 2, 3, and, team bought into it, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Like I said, we're one game into all of this, so it's definitely, early for that kind of stuff. But
did
we be on the lookout for that, though?
Did we trade for Jrue Holiday to turn him into Marcus Smart? Because that's not what I thought you're doing. Is like, do you want a guy to come in and sometimes run the point, but then also just defer to other people? I mean, like, among the things that I want to squash or want to get away from as much as possible, I want to get away from Luke Cornett and any minutes that he has on the court, and I want to get away from Point Tatum or Point Brown or offense running through those guys. I think you've got 2 capable guys who I want to see the ball in their hands, and I want to see them initiating, and I want to see them run, get into some actions here and take advantage of things. I don't just want to see it in one person's hands and letting them cook. Yeah, I'm curious what they're going to try to do different as opposed to just let talent win out. And oftentimes talent is going to win out. Here is Joe talking about the game. Nothing particularly juicy here, but just how he thought he responded late. And again, just to reiterate, we haven't gone deep on it yet, but after Jaylen Brown's masterpiece, like hanging in the Jaylen Brown Louvre of Jaylen Browniness, for the Celtics went down there, I thought that was it. And they came back from that. And again, we haven't yet talked about it, but here's Joe talking about the poise turning it around.
Jaylen Browniness.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the mindset we brought was good. the majority of the night you're going to expect games to go like that. I feel like every time we play them, it's a one-possession game. I thought we were relatively tough on both ends of the floor, and I thought we tried to execute down the stretch. And we know that's going to be something that we're going to have to continue to grow at, as our late game execution. And I thought we brought poise, thought we brought good spacing, and I thought we tried to make the right play.
Okay. How did you think of the way they responded down the stretch there?
It felt like that there were moments where they could have really given themselves a little bit of breathing room, and they just kept it closer than it should have been. This is a game that should not have been, decided in large part down the stretch by Peyton Pritchard free throws or, Tatum, making some plays. This game should have been one where they should have been able to win it with a little bit more comfort. They're a better team than New York. There's just no getting around that. And I thought they had too many stretches where they didn't lean into that reality. And in New York, to their credit, New York kind of gunked the game up. You look at some of the things that their bench guys did, the fact that their best scorer in this game came off the bench. It felt as though this was a game they should have won closer to like 8, 9, 10 points as opposed to 4.
Yeah.
What are you reading, Jimmy?
I was fine. I'm just on Twitter trying to find quotes, but I was fine with the. Listen, there was one boneheaded string of plays by Jaylen Brown, and aside from that, I wasn't too distraught with the way that they played down the stretch. I thought the Knicks fought back. I mean, that's what they've done in the last year, and that's what they're going to probably do this year. But I liked the way that Porzingis affected the game late there. He hit that big three. They got Pritchard in there. He hit his free throws. They were down. What were they down? Like 4? The Celtics? With like 2 minutes to go? Something like that?
Something like
that. And
the biggest lead, yeah.
I think it was like 9 was the biggest lead, but
a
couple minutes left. It was like a 2-possession game.
Yeah. I mean, there's been times last year where they really were lost. I mean, typically it's more on the offensive end when they need to, like the last possession or two, where you really start to scratch your head on what they were doing last year. And we haven't really got to that point yet, but I didn't feel like they were going to lose this game. I really didn't. Even when it was going back and forth, I still felt like they were in control for most of this game, and the Knicks would go on their runs and the Celtics would respond, whether it was Tatum, Porzingis. They didn't seem to let their foot off the gas. They played hard on both ends. And so overall, I was happy with it. I mean, I don't want them to get in the habit of giving up those types of leads, because I know it happens far too often, but it is also the NBA, and it happens to a lot of teams. But down the stretch, overall, I was fine with it. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a 6-point game with 4 after Brown did what Brown did. And again, let's call it for what it is. I mean, that chest pass from 45 feet away from the basket, a chest pass directly into the lane. I think 9 people were like watching that thing. Like that was like a Mac Jones like pass to the sideline,
Yeah.
Just.
It's amazing it even got that far. I thought it would have got picked off sooner.
And they were like, okay,
I guess I'll take it.
It was
okay. I'll take it now. You win.
It was like a punt. So that was, I mean, okay. I don't know. He saw something it clearly wasn't there, and then just that mental lapse, and then the foul, and that was just a rough 30 seconds. That makes it 99-93. All the momentum is on New York side.
That's what it was. Yeah.
They came back. So that's it. They did it.
That's why I'm not gonna hate on it, because they could have just rolled over at that point.
Yeah, but that could have been it, and we'd be having a different conversation right now. So again, there was a lot of same old Celtics stuff, but that's not same old Celtics. Like that's quite the opposite of what we've seen. They blow those leads, and again, this is where it would have gone. This is where the conversation goes. Joe has the Cornette Pritchard Hauser lineup to start the 4th. Okay, I mean
playing with fire.
On. Who didn't know that was a terrible idea? Nick started on a 13-2 run, and that's it. And all of a sudden, A 9-point lead it's a game, and you just undid whatever work you'd done by keeping them at arm's reach most of the game, 8, 9, 10, 11 points all game long, and just handed it back. Like what do we?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I know that's a spot where a lot of coaches do that, which is the end of the third into the fourth, and then I ride my starters the rest of the way. But you also recognize, and it's almost like a baseball thing. It's like heart of the order coming up in the 8th inning. Maybe I use my closer here. Like maybe you don't need to close with your guys if you come out there and you extend that lead to 16, 18, 20 and just drop the hammer. That was too many people you didn't want on the court at the same time.
It looks like it was. I mean, this is just a score app, but it looks like it was Pritchard, Hauser, Tatum, Porzingis, and Horford.
Oh, I thought it was Cornet. Okay.
So
it was Pritchard and Hauser. Pritchard, one came out quick. I think Hauser came out quick. He left Pritchard in there for a little bit longer, but one got a quick hook after a couple of minutes. Yeah. But you're right. It was Pritchard and Hauser.
But they still came out flat. I mean, regardless of who's in there. I mean, that goes to show that just that lack of depth there, and Hauser didn't do anything tonight.
Yeah. I agree here. It was bad for him to talk Cornet without Bobby here. We're waiting for all of those guys to get involved.
Where the hell are they?
Bobby loves to sit there and make sure he's got every last interview. Luke could talk.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Or make lemon squares.
Yeah, that's the buffet choice for Luke.
Exactly. Lemon squares. There you go, Jimmy.
Oh, man.
So it started there. And they let him right back into it. And it was a game the rest of the way.
Yeah. It was.
Against the better teams, they're not going to be able to get away with that. It's going to bite them in the ass if they're not careful.
I think the Knicks are going to be a decent team this year, though.
They'll be. I mean, to me, the ceiling for them is like 3 or 4 in the East. Really, realistically, 4 or 5 is probably where they're going to wind up.
Yeah.
Can't see them slipping beyond 6 in the East this year.
No.
Yeah. We haven't talked a ton about it, and people only get mad when we don't talk about Jaylen's 30-point games. We have not talked a lot about Tatum's 34-point game. Again, you're always looking for different, both in approach and or curious if there's another level. Is there another level to Tatum's game? I believe there is. I actually think there's even a little bit more.
There's a couple levels.
I believe Brown plateaued and did 2 years ago. I really do. I think he's fully cooked. I think that's who he is. And he's fully baked. That's what it is.
Get him out the oven.
Get him out of the oven. Don't burn the pie. Okay? Get him out of there.
He's baked. $300 million and he's baked.
Fully baked.
Unbelievable.
That's it. It's finished. It's a souffle. Perfect. Anyway, it is what it is. I think Tatum still has it because I still think he has more he can do. Like all of the stuff he does well, I actually think he can do even a little bit better and a lot finishing through the contact, being a little bit more decisive, deciding when to set people up and when to take people on and when to, how to approach it. You still see him at times you're not going to play a perfect game every game, but that second into the third quarter, he looked like he was like 2 levels above everyone else on the court, just the way that he was approaching there. It was unbelievable, just how he was attacking and scoring with ease and getting all the way to the cup. None of these cutesy little, flippy finishes. I mean, he just went strong and he got there and he just seemed to be able to get there wherever he wanted. He wasn't doing too much wiggle and jiggle. It was just right to where he wanted to go, A to B. I thought it was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And they're going to need that. I mean, he's so freaking good. It seems every year he's been in the league, when you look at what he does year in, year out, it's among the greatest to ever do that at that age as a Celtic. And as Jimmy pointed out, this is some fly-by-night NBA franchise. I mean, they're the gold standard. And the fact that he's positioning himself year in, year out, and he's getting better at everything, John. I mean, this again, I was so impressed with just his understanding of, I've got a guy that's 6'7", 6'8" guarding me. I'm just going to take his little ass on a block and then just operate from there. If they collapse on me, I'm going to kick it. I'm going to swing it. If they don't respond quickly enough, I'm just going to shoot over the top of this guy. He's understanding how to use his body to play bully ball when necessary, which is something I would never have thought would be possible when he came into the league as this 19-year-old or 17-year-old, whatever the hell old he was, twig from Duke.
Right.
I think at this stage in his career, one of the things guys learn years in is pace, right, Sherrod?
Yeah.
A lot of veterans will talk about how once they realized how to change their pace during an NBA game and go into different, I guess, levels of it mid-game, that's how they really got more effective on that offensive end. And I think Tatum, we talk about how Porzingis can score from all over. Well, Tatum can do it better, you know? I mean, he really can. And I know that there's a lot of experts that are picking him to be the MVP this year, and for good reason. For good reason, because he's going to end up being on one of the best teams in the league. He's going to be their highest scorer. He's going to be their leader, probably, and in most cases here. And he's at that point in his career where he can go out and drop 34 and 11, and we don't start talking about him until 40 minutes into the show because it's not that big of a surprise anymore, right?
Well, because he also didn't, and so this is part of it is for those moments he looked great, and it's so interesting because we had slow starts from Tatum, and again, Porzingis played the role of Jaylen Brown today and had that hot hand in the first, and then Tatum carried them second and third. We've seen that story before. Sometimes Tatum's taken entire first halves off, and that's been frustrating games when he's jacking and the threes don't get there. And I thought he didn't do that because he was attacking and he was aggressive here, and it was great. The reason we're not talking about him until 45 minutes, 50 minutes in the show is because he didn't factor into anything really late. It kind of got jumbled, junked up again. Jayson Tatum had 3 shots in the fourth quarter. Jaylen Brown had 0. We've had many calamitous losses, over the course of time in the playoffs or whatever, when people are screaming, where the F were those guys? What did they do? How did they disappear in the fourth? And so again, it's kind of like how you're going to figure out who's doing what and when. It's still weird to have those guys. And again, Porzingis bails them out because he comes up big back in the fourth after kind of disappearing for a little bit. But it's weird to have those guys not involved offensively very much at all in the fourth quarter.
It's weird, but you know what? It's like it's a good thing in some cases because it wasn't like they weren't involved and things went off the rails. They weren't involved, but they had other
Rob's
guys.
in the game. Sorry.
Yeah, did he trip and fall on his way out?
Rob, first sub, and he's out. Baby, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
No,
yeah.
First sub of the game, Ayton in foul trouble. Williams going to show the world he's better than Ayton. They're going to flip. They're going to flip that quick. But anyway,
well, I'll watch the highlights. No, I mean, listen, it's not being forced to them either, John, which is a good thing, because what happened last year is it would end up in one of those guys' hands, and we'd trash their execution down the stretch because there was no plan. There was nothing. It was just whoever ended up with the ball was going to just do whatever they could to try to score. And in most cases, it ended up in a turnover. So if that's not going to happen this year, if they're not going to try to force it to Tatum or force it to Brown, and they're going to work it around and get it to the guy who's got the best chance at scoring, then I'm fine with that. And it's not going to be the norm that both guys aren't involved, quote unquote, down the stretch. It just so happened to be the case tonight.
Yeah, I mean they've got the kind of talent where there's going to be this is Andem. That's funny.
Well said.
Can't make it up.
Well said.
Exactly. Yeah. No, they've got the kind of roster and depth that it's going to be almost like pick your poison on a nightly basis for teams where 2 or 3 of those guys are going to have really good games and maybe 2 or 3 of them may not play particularly well. But over the course of the season, I think it's all going to balance out where they're going to have 4 or 5 guys who over the course of a season are going to be really good because they're going to need that if they're going to win a championship. They're going to need guys to, like tonight was not a great game for Jaylen Brown from an offensive standpoint, but defensively he did some really good things. Next game, he might not be as good defensively, but he might go out and get you 28 points. So
that's going to be the message. That's definitely their message to each other. I bet Sherrod is that everyone's time will come.
Yeah, and it sounds kind of BS-y, but it's real. That's truth.
Totally, and that's how you have to. That's how you have to be if your goal is to win a championship. You have to put the team in front of you, and you have to understand that it's not going to always be your night. Jaylen Jayson Tatum's not going to always get the ball maybe at the end of the games anymore. And Jaylen Brown's not going to get 25 points every game or whatever. And there's going to be minutes where Porzingis doesn't have it either. I mean, it's hard to believe. I don't even believe it while I say it, that Porzingis might not be on a certain night. But those nights will come, and then there are other players available to fill in. That's the whole point. That's why you are stacked 1 through 6 the way you are.
Yeah, because I still think as good as Porzingis was tonight, I still at the end of the day see him as their third or fourth best player when all's said and done. And so that means there are going to be nights that will not be this good. But to me, the big thing for Porzingis is just actually being available to play. That's the thing. I mean, when he's healthy enough to play in games, he's pretty damn good. But that's been an issue. So yeah, so I mean, this to me again, the biggest surprise about Porzingis tonight was how well he played defensively. He's been consistently one of the better shot blockers in the NBA for the last 4 or 5 years for sure. But the contesting of shots, the not getting smoked when guards try to go ISO on him. Those are things that he's not great at, but he's not a liability as many of us thought he might be with this team. So I'm good with what he was able to do, knowing that it's probably not going to be this good most nights.
All NBA. That's what I predicted. Yeah, I mean he was gushing over the win and the performance and playing in the building. Yeah.
Playing against the Knicks, the team that drafted him, and they were all chanting F Porzingis, I guess, during the game. And he said,
this is what you want to hear.
He said it was fun. He said, I was just enjoying all of that and using that as motivation to make some big plays. It was actually really, really fun tonight to be in that environment. So Porzingis is tapping into this is the thing. He hasn't probably played a meaningful game in a minute, right? So he's
think about. I mean, he's in Washington
back a little bit. Yeah.
Which I mean, Washington from a basketball standpoint, that's like the freaking Serbia of the NBA. There's nothing.
The Latvia of the NBA.
Oh, it's worse. There's nothing. There's no value. People don't care about their games. And he, he's now in a situation. Not only do they care about your teams you play, but they care about the team you play for. You play games that matter. And for him, the beautiful thing is you've got like face of the franchise money as the third or fourth option. And every now and then they might need you to be the number 2, like tonight. And he has the ability to do that. So this was, I mean, again, if you're the Celtics, this is a reminder of why you went out and got Porzingis, why he matters to this team. Because you're going to have nights like this where Jaylen's not going to have it going on offensively. And you need someone to be able to step up and be that number 2 scoring threat.
Former Celtics alert, Rob Williams, a -7 in 4 minutes, 0 for 1. 0 for 1 with a turnover and a foul. Malcolm Brogdon just got in the game, 1 minute, 0 for 1. This got to suck for Malcolm, right?
Yeah, that's tough.
He ate it last year to be a 6th man on a good team with championship aspirations, and did it because he was being a good soldier. Then you get dished to Portland and you're a 6th man again, and you got Matthias Thybulle starting, and oh geez.
That's gotta be tough. He's too nice.
Yeah.
That's what happens to nice guys.
So that's tough. Grant Williams, by the way, heard the slander. 9 points in 18 minutes, more points than Kyrie Irving so far, I will say. And
finishing at the rim too. I saw him convert a 3-point play. Yeah.
So he's got 3 turnovers and he has a -7. But Grant, Grant is gonna Grant right now. He's gonna do what he does. And that's that. So former Celtics. We'll check that out. And as you said, Marcus had 15 points, right?
The game was still going on at the time.
Oh, it was. Okay.
It was like nearing its end.
Rolling.
All right, we're gonna hang on a little bit, see if we get the guys in on New York a little bit. Guys, spin the wheel. Where haven't we gone tonight? Do you want to talk about general vibe? Like expectations were up here because what did you want to see? Bombs away, right? Go. This team's unstoppable. Everybody's scoring. 4 guys with 20 points, blah, blah, blah. Didn't happen. It was a little bit messy. You still generally positive vibes coming out of the game?
Yes. I mean, the guy that I was curious to see how they would respond is Al, because he's the one guy that everyone loves. Everyone believes is one of their leaders. And now you're asking him. He's another guy that, again, his role is going to be very different this year because clearly there are going to be times where they go double big and times they're going to go not double big. And when they don't do it, he's coming off the bench. And, Tatum talked a little bit about that, before the game, about how just Al, is the example that everyone needs to follow as far as sacrifice and things like that. But it's nice to say that, and it sounds good, but what the hell does that mean when you actually get in the game? And Al, to his credit, made the most of his opportunities to make shots, did a good job defensively, did basically everything he does when he's starting. And no one really has a sense of how that is going to play out as the season progresses. But this was a great start, I think, for Al in terms of, being able to impact the game in a very kind of compacted playing time situation, coming off the bench in a role that you're not used to playing.
John, do we have apology cam ready for Bobby when he does join? Because I am making him apologize for his bold take already that
it blew up.
It blew up
the
in a
fastest
record.
bold prediction to blow up.
Bobby,
You mean what about Jrue Holiday playing like 20 games or some like that?
starting less than 50 games and Al Horford being the starter and he wrote a lot of words to be wrong in record-setting time. So I want that apology cam.
What I will say is this. I will say
there.
this. I will say this. If Joe doesn't feel good about any of the guys he's got on the bench, Brissett, Banton, who else? Svi,
Kada, my guy
Kada, what's his name? The guy from Cleveland.
Lamar Stevens.
Lamar Stevens.
What
Doesn't
are
feel
any
good
of their
about
names?
Sleepy.
Leave Lamar Stevens out of this.
Put your hand in a hat.
Sleepy,
pull a name
sneezy.
Out. All right, you're in, buddy.
Dopey.
You're in.
Dopey.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't feel good about any of those guys, he's not going to give them any run. And he's committed to the Hauser Pritchard kind of being the 7 and the 8, which we thought was going to be the case. And you get nights like this where you're starting to wonder, like, yeah, I don't know if I like this. There's gonna start to be some interesting conversations about do you break it up even more? Do you take somebody who absolutely shouldn't be out of the starting lineup out of the starting lineup? People will wonder if that's something that you would do.
If you start losing.
Yeah. But who knows? We'll see how it goes. Here is we're going to hear from Kristaps right here on his debut. Here's KP.
That was awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Playing here at the Garden is always special. As a home team, obviously, but also on the road here, it's really fun. And it's at one point it got really crazy, right? When the fans got into it, they made a comeback. But we stayed poised, we stayed calm, and we were able to finish out the game on making some big plays, hitting some free throws, and overall fun game to play in for sure.
That dude is so damn happy,
right?
I mean, I've seen him do just dozens and dozens of interviews through the years. I've never seen him as consistently happy as he is. Was listening to him talk to Lisa Salters after
Great
the first
smile.
quarter. Big ass grin then. Big ass post game grin.
Great
dude
teeth.
It's like he got his get out of jail free card. And he is absolutely doing the damn thing. Josue is here. Oh, snap.
What's going on, Sherrod?
Josue's doing the damn thing.
We'll bring in Josue here. I will say one thing Kristaps said, and again, I was talking about this with some people during the game. Life is better. NBA life. I think sports in general is better when teams in the Northeast and on the East Coast are relevant.
Good.
Vibes. Philly, New York, Boston. When you get vibes, when you get those rivalries, and he's right, like New York, that's a fun atmosphere there, Josue. So like,
fans are crazy. Let me tell you, they're crazy out here.
Yeah, it's fun when they care, and when they're into it.
No better place to play than MSG.
But you get your first. What were your impressions from tonight? And you talked to some people in the locker room. General vibe.
General vibe is positive. I think overall there's that we could have played better out there, which is understandable the way that things unfolded in that fourth quarter, but they stayed poised. I mean, that's the word that all these guys are saying. I'm sure that's the word that Joe Mazzulla repeated a number of times. He certainly had us waiting for quite a bit. I don't take that as he was reaming his guys out, but I think they must have had a thorough talk about what transpired there. And a lot of these guys are on the same page. I mean, Kristaps, Porzingis, Tatum, talking about how that fourth quarter played out and how they need to tighten things up offensively, a lot of turnovers. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to say the term the win's a win, but they did what they needed to do to close this one out and grab the first one of the season.
Facts, my dog.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Who'd
this
you
is a
talk
special
to?
match for Porzingis, man. Porzingis, actually. And I caught the end of Sherrod's answer there when he was talking about just how happy he is to be in Boston and how happy he was to hear this crowd say F you over and over again and then silence them in the end, man. All
That's
that
like
stuff,
me in the chat.
is that, yeah, pretty much something like that.
I love it.
Perfect comparison.
F you, Zannis. I love it. Keep
I mean, that's not
Feed
the
me
one I
that.
would have. That's not the one I would have went with, but I'll take that one, I guess. Yeah, and look, this is exactly what the Celtics team needed in terms of having a guy who can just do a lot of things for you on both ends of the floor, right? And that's what Porzingis did, especially hitting those big shots. It's really difficult for the Knicks to go out there and defend that, and they showed that for sure, right? Also, defensive stops, down low, and to like what you said, John, when an arena is chanting your name, that type of chant. I mean, it's not because you're on a team that's not destined to do great things this season. So I think
matter.
Yeah, you have to matter, and obviously Porzingis is all of a sudden, and on a team that not only has championship aspirations but have the talent to pull it off for sure.
Yeah, it's a little different rolling to Garden with the Celtics versus rolling in there with the Bullets. Excuse me, the Wizards. It's just
Bullets.
That's a good point.
Wow, you just dated yourself.
Yeah.
I did.
So when Jeff Ruland is out there, Bobby!
What's up?
What's up, Bobby boy? You doing a press conference right now?
Yeah. Waiting
Is
for
this-
some questions.
Yo, he's dead ass. He's like,
I
guys,
gotta-
hurry up.
About
I don't have a lot of time.
About that Luke Cornett guy, Bobby.
I got a question for you, Bobby.
Bobby, we're not gonna stop you. You decide which way you want to go. We've at this point talked about everything.
If I had to guess, though, Jimmy's going to want to talk to you about that starting lineup thing.
I'll let Bobby hit us with his hotness right off the top. What do you got, Bob?
So I had a lot of frustrating moments watching this one. The turnovers were bad, and we just talked to Jason, who was like, "Oh, first game of the year, cut me some slack." I turned it over a little bit too much, but it was just first game jitters, whatever you want to call it, sloppiness, the natural progression of playing with new guys. So I guess I'll buy that answer for now, but I was very disappointed with some of the offensive lapses.
Bobby
throughout
disappointed
this game.
after a win here.
Yeah, so
But
Hard ass. Here
but-
he is, hard ass Bobby this year.
But this did look like a 2022 win. You didn't play great. You had some maddening offensive stretches, but man, did you defend for most of this game. There was a stretch at the end of the second I didn't love defensively, but overall dominant on that end and in a different way, right? Like we said, Porzingis in the middle, them fighting around screens and navigating guys into that drop, him blocking 4 shots, contesting everything. I mean, he's going to be
And that's what they're
otherworldly
going to do,
defensively
right,
this
Bobby?
year.
It's going to be a lot of pressure, fight through screens, play drop. Porzingis is back, and that's that. And that's just what that's who they're going to be.
Yeah. Then they forced a lot of turnovers in this game, a lot of breakout scores. It didn't feel like they missed
Leaking
a
out,
shot in
tipped
transition.
timeout, did that a couple
Yeah.
of times. Yeah.
Yeah, so that stuff, I guess, sticks with me more than some of the more frustrating moments. But you're going to hold this team to a high standard. So this wasn't great. They got outshot by 20. They gave up a ton of threes. The turnovers were maddening, and it felt like they were going to blow it late. I mean, this would have been a terrible loss if they let it slip away. They go down 6 into the final couple minutes there. But what did we say, John? Having Porzingis there is going to make the reads easier. And what they do down the stretch, they look for him again and again and again in the corner on Grimes, in the corner on Hartenstein to draw the fouls and the bonus for the deep 3. And it was a deep one, the decisive one.
But they after going away from him from a little bit there, and again, this is like your new superpower here. You've got this guy where you can find him. Like he's there. They missed him. They didn't utilize him as much as they could have, and he still ended up putting up 30 points.
He was awesome. This is everything you could have dreamt of from him. Going through some frustrating moments. I know Josue probably talked about him saying, I didn't want to play angry. Just wanted to have fun and be loose out there. He was joking around about the crowd, and overall, he just seems happy here, and he likes his role a lot. Like, he's in a prime position to succeed with this team. Now, Jaylen, I think our preview show, predicted some of the challenges he's going to go through in this offense. Definitely didn't receive consistent looks. Many of the same issues from the preseason where he's getting caught underneath the defense and just throwing it away. The sloppy back-to-back turnovers there almost lost him the game. Not a great game, and he struggled getting around screens, fouling. I don't know what was wrong with him out there. Jason got asked about it, said, we're all going to have bad games, and he did some good stuff like rebounding. And, he did have a decent amount of assists in this game, but I wasn't a big fan of his night at all.
What did you like, Bobby?
The defense. They are back to being the first team, and I love it. You would not have won this game last year. I guarantee it. You would have lost going cold from 3 and letting the other team outshoot you in that spot and just continuing to jack up shots. And the one guy you do like jacking up shots is Porzingis.
Facts, my dog.
Facts.
So
where were you guys at? Bobby. Disappointed? Positive coming out of it? What was the vibe?
We are
not disappointed. Happy about the way they came back in the end. I mean, obviously, you don't want to see them lose that double-digit lead there. You don't like to see Jaylen Brown have like a 30-second seizure on the court and just do everything wrong and all that thing. But
you don't want to see the bench suck the way they did.
You don't want to see the bench suck. You don't want to see some silly turnovers, whether it was Tatum. I thought White had a couple bad turnovers. I thought Holiday had a couple bad turnovers. You already mentioned Tatum with a couple bad turnovers. But I'm chalking this up to game 1. These guys can only do so much in preseason and in practice where they need to get some real game time together and work out some of the kinks. And I think that's why.
I thought Holiday especially kind of looked out of it, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought at points. But the one thing I will say that I did like about Holiday is he was guarding his ass off.
Tough as hell defensively.
Man, he's guarding Randall in the first half.
Yeah, exactly. So give him the benefit of the doubt there.
Right.
Yeah.
He's your power forward defensively.
He's a freaking that's what I mean is where we lose it up. Marcus did that too, but he legit every night is on the tough assignment.
Yeah.
Every night, Holiday. And I know we lauded Smart for that, and he absolutely did it. Holiday does it too. He is freaking tough, man. He's playing Randall slamming into him, top of the key, trying to get position, trying to get where he wants, and he can't get anywhere. And he was ice cold early. So, I mean, he's tough, man. I thought there was a little stretch there where he got a little loose with the ball, and the shot wasn't great. He had a couple of open looks that they didn't fall. He certainly didn't play a bad game. He just wasn't super impactful. But Bobby, see you, Jimmy.
I'm back.
Okay. But Bobby, what I will say about Holiday is I feel like they used him like they used Marcus last year, and instead of just putting the ball in his hands and letting him run the offense.
I don't think they let the guards run the offense.
No,
not
in
this one.
No.
At all.
And Joe keeps talking about how, not to cut you off, but real quick. But
no, I want to know what you guys think on it.
Well, no, Joe keeps talking about how he has to get familiar with the offense. And he's still, trying to get used to things. But yeah, right now you're not seeing a whole lot of that, especially when, especially off, when the second unit checks in.
Bring him off the bench.
Who?
It was Holiday.
Why? What's wrong?
Apology cam this guy right now. Apology cam his ass.
You're really asking for it now, Bug.
You are asking for it. I was going to give you the
Why
benefit
do you
of
want
the
to
doubt.
see that? Why?
John, you just said
these guys want you.
You better watch it because the next thing I'm going to say is bring Jaylen off the bench, and then everyone's going to lose their freaking minds. Okay?
You better watch it.
Okay? You better watch it because I'm coming with that.
You said, John. You said, John, they're using him.
I wish I knew how to make Bobby a solo.
John, you said that.
Oh
no, John, we're not doing that. I don't think so.
Who did that? That wasn't me. Yeah, I think John, if I had to guess, I think Jimmy did that.
That's totally Jimmy. You know that's Jimmy.
Look at him.
I'm getting more comfortable
when Jimmy plays with my toys. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting more comfortable.
Look at that. Now
you look at John's face. John's like, "Wait, I didn't do that. What's going on?"
Go ahead.
So you said it, John. He looked like he was smart out there in terms of his usage offensively. Josue said it too. Still trying to involve him, still trying to run sets for him. I know I talked to him in the locker room a little bit about just, he said I got to screen more and create more advantages. If he's coming off the bench, he'll have the ball in his hands. And you saw it. The second unit really looked stagnant, didn't have a lot of pop to it, not a lot of creation. The ball was in Jaylen's hands. Didn't we talk about that last night? You didn't have to do that this year because you have the ability to bring a White or a Holiday off the bench potentially here. And they sit Horford. And I felt like it limited Horford a little bit too. Like he got going there in the second half, and otherwise he just wasn't super involved. Yeah, there just wasn't a lot of spark off the bench.
You're going to die on this hill, aren't you?
Well, no, that's interesting, Bob, because if you ask me, and I was going to get to this, guys, and I see what everyone else thought about. I'm sure you guys talked about it.
Did you like the rotations tonight, Josue?
I mean, I like what you saw out of Horford. And if you ask me, I think you can make an argument that he's got to do a little more out there coming off the bench to help these guys, right? Like in terms of being a defensive presence, making sure that the ball's moving on offense. I mean, if the shots aren't falling between Pritchard and Hauser, like we saw tonight, that second unit's in trouble. And I think a lot of that falls on Al. And of course, guys from the starting five will mix in there and help that production. But look, outside of Al, I mean, how many points you getting from that bench, at least right now? Look, Hauser will probably find a shot. Pritchard will probably do the same, but you're looking for consistency, and you're wondering if this is going to be an ongoing issue moving forward. I think they kind of need someone like Al to help things on both ends.
Well, Bobby thinks they need someone like Holiday.
You need lineup balance.
What are you going to do? You got 6 players. One of them is going to the bench with the rest of those guys. No matter what, moving Holiday there versus Al there doesn't make Hauser a different person. Like, no matter what.
They're still going to be playing with 3 other starters.
And plus, to me,
there's always 3 starters on the floor, Bobby. That's the thing, is like, it's not going to be.
But when they were going into the bench, it was a lot of Brown on the ball and a lot of Pritchard on the ball. And Pritchard wasn't very good in this one. Brown,
that's something he has to improve, because that's a big part of why he's why they committed the way they did to Pritchard. So that's something I think he's going to find his way. But in terms of Al, I think you're maximizing him right now. You're getting
maybe
he's got to do a lot more than you would see if he was out there with the starting 5. I don't know if you would get the same kind of production out of White coming off the bench. I don't know.
It's the lack of your big depth that makes it necessary to make Al come off the bench. It
but
really
also,
is.
You put Holiday on the bench. When does Pritchard come into the game?
It just having Al on the bench allows your rotations to be able to flow better. Doesn't mean you're not going to play double. Joe played double big all friggin' night.
Do you feel like the rotations flowed well tonight, though?
They didn't, but that's because you're gonna
blame Cornette.
You asked for this.
Cornette has no business in this game tonight. Zero.
I was surprised.
Fair enough, but it wasn't his fault.
I'm not blaming
it's never
Cornette
his fault.
For anything.
Enabler.
Cornette is Cornette. I'm not blaming him for being who he is. He just had no role here. Like, at this point, you got to figure out what you're doing here with that. I don't understand that. Like, what do you do here?
That was an elegant way
of what you do.
Right. Why wasn't it his
figure
fault,
out what he does?
We gotta.
It was the facilitating.
What do you do?
It was the facilitating on that second unit. You just didn't have a lot of pop. You didn't have a lot of organization. You didn't have a lot of flow in those units. They went a little deep into the bench too, and in some of those lineups that had Cornette and Hauser out there. So you basically had Pritchard and Brown orchestrating those 5 guys with Tatum off the floor. I thought that first half rotation, John, really sunk them. They took Holiday and Tatum off the floor, and it was like Pritchard, Brown, Hauser, Cornette, and someone else.
They were 8 deep 9 minutes into the game, and then Luke starts the second quarter, I believe. So it was weird. Yeah.
So that stretch, they got off to that great start, didn't they? 15 points for Porzingis early, and then he's off the floor too, I think, in that stretch there. It might have been Horford at the 4. So
what does it mean? This is what he did. What do you want me to put on the screen?
Well, we don't usually put stats up for those types of lines.
What do you want me to say? Luke played some tonight. What do you want the graphic to say?
He probably doesn't deserve a graphic. He doesn't deserve a lower third tonight.
What do you want me to write? Why did Luke play tonight on the graphic?
I want you to play Amit's clip that he said he uploaded.
What did he?
Yeah.
Is it
put
up
up
already?
Jrue talking about the lineups.
Fine. Here's Jrue talking about the lineups.
Oh, good. Definitely a good test. It was fun to go out there. Obviously fun to play in Madison Square Garden, first game, and kind of feel this type of rivalry. So it was a good test for us.
What did you notice you guys still need to work through offensively, especially through some of those more stagnant stretches?
Maybe getting some screens, thinking quicker to get the advantage that we want. If I have a small on me, go up there and set a screen and try to play out of that. Maybe JB or JT can either attack that, or maybe they get mixed up. I'm open for a 3 or layup or something like that. So just going back and a little bit more ball movement.
Yeah, the ball movement did kind of stink tonight.
It was awful.
Yeah, it sucked. Let's
sucked.
I'm waiting for Bobby to say one good thing about tonight's game.
Defense, Jimmy.
All right, it's true. You just said defense. You don't like anything offensively at all?
Not really. What was that? Porzingis,
two
right?
good individual performances.
Porzingis and Tatum.
Porzingis and Tatum, and the rest was just a mishmash.
And the late game execution was pretty good. I mean, Tatum going to a post-up move late blew me away.
Yeah, I love that.
Never thought I'd see that. And he
Thanks, Sam.
Got fouled.
You could thank Sam I am for that.
My eyes have
that was
seen the
big.
glory. Yeah, that was Sam, right?
9 straight points for.
That's what he's been saying. He said he's going to work with Tatum in his post move. So we're getting a little.
They didn't turn the ball. They didn't turn the ball over after that string of Brown ones, right? So it tightened up. Last 4 minutes.
It was not a high turnover game. It wasn't. It was 13. It wasn't ridiculous. But yeah,
you were just letting them score off of pretty much everyone.
So, it's just those, they were magnified, and, it came at that time where, the Brown ones back to back obviously put you in a hole, but it wasn't horrible. There just wasn't, it's hard to turn the ball over when I don't know. There wasn't really like much of an offensive philosophy. They weren't running a lot of stuff. They were just kind of.
And to hear them say, we had this amazing training camp, 08 vibes, everything's been amazing. Remember last night, I was like, there's got to be something that's worth working through here. And the offense clearly is a work in progress right now. I thought in the half court especially, they've really struggled at certain points of this game. I mean, they'd have a few possessions where it'd just be pass, 3. Start of the fourth quarter especially. Those first 5 minutes of the fourth were horrible offensively. So I'm sorry, Jimmy. It's a win. You love it, but we're holding this team to a high standard.
I know. I get it. And I think that they are going to right some wrongs. Obviously, Bobby, you're not going to get the finished product in game 1.
Right.
They're going to be working through a lot of kinks, especially on offense. They've got 2 huge pieces that are brand new to this team. It's their first game. And, I mean, one of those guys dropped 30 points tonight. He had one of the best openings on a new team that you could probably have. So I understand where you're coming from. There's a lot of work still to be done, and I'm sure Mazzulla probably said something similar. But they got out of there on the road, a lot of energy in that building against a good Knicks team that's going to be a playoff team, and they fought hard and they won the game, and they'll build off of it. That's kind of where I'm at with this one. That probably sounds like a homer take, but I'm just not going to get too low on some of the things I didn't see tonight. That's all.
Yeah, it just sounds like a take from the first game of the season,
Yeah.
Sherrod, would you shake up the lineup? Are you keeping it?
I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it, Bob.
You don't shake up the lineup.
Bobby said that like he was begging for you.
They're 1-0. Like, what do you want?
Wick Grousbeck walked into that locker room and he told them, "We're not doing this again.
Never again.
The lineup's changing.
It's not working.
The lineup is changing. I am the boss."
Change it now,
Bobby. If you want continuity, if you want to see some continuity, you want to see these guys get more comfortable playing together offensively, you got to keep the lineup the way it is for a bit, anyways.
Well, I'm interested to see because they keep saying lineup by committee, different lineups, different matchups. I'd be surprised if they're shaking it up constantly. I've said that, so Joe's gonna keep me on my toes with these lineups, and
not really. It's the lineup that everybody thought should have been in the lineup. It was their 5 best guys at their positions that they play.
And then you had nothing off the bench.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen no matter what.
You don't start your bench guys so you can have a stacked bench.
We can keep going in circles with this, but
it's gonna be a topic for a lot of this year. I feel like. We'll
not
see.
if they keep winning.
I literally think it's going to be like a topic of one.
So you think this is going to be the lineup throughout?
I think only if things go drastically wrong and you feel you need a massive shakeup, might you change things up.
There's going to be guys out here and there, but yeah.
Would I be stunned if someone goes to the bench and Al comes in? Not really, but it's going to be Derek White if that happens. The Holiday thing going to the bench is crazy. It's definitely not going to be what happens.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
I hope it's not White either, though. So maybe
you
do
really,
stick
it
with
really
Horford.
just has to be Holiday for you in order for it to work. No matter,
I think it makes a lot of
they have
sense.
6
So
good
what, you're-
players,
John, if
and the
they take
bench
your-
is going to suck unless Holiday goes to it.
So you're
That's
six,
it.
John, if they
6
take
and
your
7
idea-
guys off the bench, your point guards.
If they take your
Brown?
idea and bench Jaylen, Bob's gonna be like, "See, I told you, man. They just can't.
Right.
They made the wrong mistake. They're supposed to put Holiday on the bench."
I'm surprised John hasn't gone there in full yet.
He's hinted at it. It's coming. Give it a few more games.
Everyone said they're
We're
willing to
one game into the
sacrifice.
season, Bobby. Give us time to marinate. Give us some time to marinate. Come on.
We're gonna have to track that because I think we all acknowledged in that preview show this is gonna be the biggest adjustment for him. And where does he fit in? Where does he consistently get his? Defensively, he comes in saying, we're looking to make all defensive, and I thought he had some bad stretches on that end tonight. And again, one game, but it's another thing you're taking away from this one, saying it's got to be better. You got Miami on Friday. You get some tests early in this season. I'm thrilled they won because this would have been a bad loss if they blew it late. But defensively, just like in 2022, Sherrod, you saved yourself tonight by getting a ton of stops and turnovers. So that's what I come out of this one happy with. The offense still tough to watch. And it's just another example, John, that is as much talent as there is on this team, it's still going to come back to what can Tatum and Brown do with the ball in their hands when it matters.
Yeah, I mean, it's why I bring up the Tatum fourth quarter. It wasn't give it to Tatum and let him handle it and get the ball out of the way.
He made some good passes. He did.
Yeah, again, right, but he wasn't aggressive. He didn't, but they closed, and that's what you want to do. The conversation's totally different if they don't pull this one out there, because it would be like, where were Tatum and Brown? Where were your stars here not getting things done? But they got it done. So you're not going to question how it went down the stretch there.
Yep.
Everything post that meltdown by Brown, they pulled it together.
I love the closing stretch. I did.
It could have gone south for sure.
Yep.
Porzingis, man. You were excited, Jimmy. No fire rescue tonight, but everything else was there.
Yeah, that's gonna happen at home. It's gonna be a home game. It's gonna be a home game. He's gonna be driving.
Could happen on the road. It still counts, I'd say.
Last thing we're gonna any other game
gonna
stuff?
run off the bus.
Any other game stuff here?
No, I'm good.
What do you got?
I don't have any game stuff. I wanted to ask them. They did like a Men on the Street interview in New York City today. I wanted to know how that went.
John gave us some direction on it. He wanted us to be confrontational.
Hold on, no. This is
true. What? This is 100% true, John. Don't try
Do we have a video?
No, we don't. I don't set it up. We don't have it yet.
Okay.
Oh.
Let me just say, John wanted us to be confrontational, and it got confrontational.
It's been 20 years. All right, whatever.
Did you guys almost get your asses kicked?
One of us did.
Wow.
Damn, Bobby's like that.
The bus?
Wow.
Stay tuned.
That's not what happened, but stay tuned.
This
Right?
Anyway,
nobody almost anything. All right, just New York
Just
is like
leave it.
New York
Last thing
just got that too.
When am I going to see this?
We'll get
Tomorrow.
back to it in a minute. Last thing I wanted to talk about. Earlier today, Wick Grausbeck went on the radio, and he revealed that he demanded changes to the roster after the Game 7 loss.
Changes to the starting lineup.
Yeah, he demands Holiday go to the bench. What do we think here?
Do we believe it?
this?
Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm asking, do you
He
believe
did go in the locker room.
I do believe but he said he goes in. He was watching Game 7. He stewed for a bit after he went in the locker room down 3-0. He went into after Game 7. He watched it, stewed for a bit. 2 days later, wrangled up Brad and Joe and said, "We're not bringing back this team." Do you believe that every change was necessitated by that conversation, or that's something that was happening on its own?
I think that was always on the table. I don't know if it's one of those things where it was happening on its own, it was inevitable, but that was always on the table. And like we talked about it, Bobby and I this afternoon, Marcus Smart was always going to be that guy, or in most scenarios was going to be that guy, in terms of his value, his contract, coming off of the Defensive Player of the Year award. I mean, Rob, you can almost make the same argument, just in the sense that he's a bit younger and all that stuff. But I just feel like if you're going to make drastic changes, that was always going to be at least the first place to start, right? Putting someone like Marcus or Rob, but most likely Marcus, especially where you were in the very beginning of the offseason, in a deal to bring in someone. I mean, it's like it's exactly what what Brad said. You know, it costs a lot to get good things, and I don't think anyone here believes that Tatum or Brown were ever on the table, or that was even a thought.
Yeah, I don't think he came up with these deals, but
Right.
I'm sure he was mad, and I'm sure that there were conversations about changes needing to be made, and I'm sure that was on Brad's mind too, and Joe's mind. I know Brad was at the forefront of a lot of these changes this summer, and these have been things stewing in his mind for a while. Like I still go back to the Smart thing, and a lot of people think that at 11 o'clock the Clippers deal fell apart, and they just called the Grizzlies, and they were like, "Give us Smart, or this isn't happening." There were a lot of talks, and even the Grizzlies front office people said, we've been pushing for Smart for a little while now. So these conversations happen over time. And I think, as Josue just said, the biggest change you could make was moving Smart and bringing in a big man like they did. And that just doesn't happen overnight. I think a lot of these conversations started. They clearly weren't going to trade Brown, right? So
right.
I think after that series ends, the big cultural change you can make is moving on from Smart. And I don't think it was just about the talent you're bringing in. That was obviously a big part of it, but it's also about what you're sending out and freeing up Tatum and Brown. Like, I think when it came to that deal, John, it was 50% adding a talent you really like and 50% trying to change the dynamic in this room and the leadership dynamic on this team.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm right there with Wick. We all said it on the show that something needed to happen. They couldn't just bring it back again, right? So we joke about Wick a lot on this show because he is poor. Make no mistake about it. He is a poor owner. But that being said,
he's writing big checks this year.
I know. I gotta put that joke on the shelf for a bit. But he is a Celtics fan, and you know what? When your owner really does have a little bit of like fandom attached, that goes a long way. And you can just ask fans of teams that just have miserable owners that don't care about the team, and they just year after year just disappoint. But that's not Wick Grossbeck, and that's not that ownership team. They care about their organization. They care about the team. They want to win. Their goal is to bring banners to Boston. And so, yeah, I completely believe that he went into that room and said, guys, figure it the F out. He's not going to sit there and try to make the deals, obviously, but he trusts Brad to do it, and give Brad credit. Brad went out there and did it. And I'm sure Wick giving a little nudge, helped a little bit, but I'm sure that Brad went into the offseason knowing that he had to make some tough decisions. It's not to make Marcus Smart the scapegoat, but that was just probably their really only option in order to make some real change. They weren't going to get rid of Tatum, obviously, and they didn't have they weren't going to get rid of Brown in the situation that he was in contractually speaking.
There's no other move. I mean, any other move would have been minimal, right? It wouldn't have made a huge splash. It wouldn't have changed the identity of this team the way Marcus Smart moved it.
And they were going to go into the year with the Porzingis deal being the main one. The Holiday one was just that came out of, as we all know, that came out of nowhere.
Well, so, that's thanks to Milwaukee.
I'm sure Wick bombed into the room after that too and said, figure out a way to get Holiday on our team. So
that I believe. Yeah.
Good for him, and good for the Celtics for doing it.
Wick, yeah. I'm already on.
Yeah, Wick. All right, I'm on the phone right now.
Yeah, I'm on the phone right now. Can you give me a second?
Right. Yeah, I also think there's a little bit of Wick's reading the press clippings, and everybody's anointing his team the best team since 2008. And it's like, hey, by the way, I told him to do that. I want you guys to know.
Before the season starts.
It's pretty quiet when things are going wrong.
Yeah, right. But 25 games in, it'd be like, look, we took some risks. We got if they're like under 500. Next interview, we took a few risks. We got rid of some core pieces. We knew that was risky.
Growing pains.
Never know how that's gonna go. That was a gamble, a big gamble by Brad and only Brad.
Nah, he wouldn't have put him out there like that.
I'm just kidding.
But it wouldn't have been all. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Right.
So we're gonna wrap. Thanks you guys for hanging out with us for all of this time. Celtics win. It was a squeaker. 108-104.
I didn't expect that.
Home opener is on
the
Friday.
mice are moving in on me here, John.
All right, we're going with Bobby on my top. We're gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys for hanging up.
Man on the street interview coming.
Some people were talking on the chat. Prayers up, Lewiston, Maine. For those people who don't know, it's pretty freaking bad. Yeah, so we're not going to talk about it here, but I know people were talking about it in the chat. We're going to see you guys on Friday night. Thanks, everybody.